What if I told you that happiness can be guaranteed? Not by money, not by achievements, not even by having the perfect life, but through something far more accessible and powerful, a shift in the way you think. This isn't some modern self-help trend. It's a timeless truth rooted in ancient Buddhist wisdom. In a world that often feels like it's spinning out of control, with stress, uncertainty, and constant distractions, Buddhism offers something rare, a clear path back to peace. It doesn't ask you to escape reality. It invites you to meet it with awareness, compassion, and clarity. Buddhism teaches that the mind is the source of both suffering and freedom. The thoughts we nurture, the perspectives we hold, and the stories we tell ourselves, they shape our entire experience of life. So, what happens when we begin to shift those thoughts toward kindness, gratitude, and understanding? Positive thinking, from a Buddhist perspective, isn't about ignoring difficulties or pretending everything is fine. It's about learning to see the world with fresh eyes, not tinted by fear or attachment, but illuminated by mindfulness and love. It's not just wishful thinking. It's a powerful practice that transforms how we live, how we relate to others, and how we respond to every challenge we face. In this video, we're going to explore what positive thinking truly means in Buddhism, and how it can bring lasting joy, even in the midst of everyday struggles. If you're ready to take a step toward inner peace and happiness that doesn't depend on circumstances, you're in the right place. Let's begin this journey together. Before we dive in, take a moment to subscribe to Daily Buddhism Wisdom, your space for peaceful reflection, grounded wisdom, and practical teachings to enrich your modern life. Each video is crafted to bring the ancient truths of Buddhism into your daily experience, whether you're new to the path or deep into your spiritual journey. If you're seeking clarity, compassion, and calm, you're in the right place. We walk this path to inner peace together, one mindful step at a time. Now let's talk about something that often gets misunderstood: positive thinking. In today's world, positive thinking can sometimes sound like a shallow slogan. Something like, just stay happy, or good vibes only. But real life isn't always that simple. We face pain, disappointment, loss, and stress. Life is full of ups and downs, and Buddhism never asks us to pretend otherwise. That's why Buddhist positive thinking is different. It's not about ignoring suffering or pretending everything's okay when it isn't. It's not about slapping on a smile while your heart is breaking. It's about seeing clearly, recognizing both joy and sorrow, light and shadow, and choosing to respond with wisdom, with presence, and with heart. In Buddhism, this clarity is rooted in mindfulness, the practice of being fully aware of the present moment without judgment. When we see our thoughts and emotions as they are, without clinging or pushing them away, we create space for understanding. And from understanding comes peace. The Buddha taught, we are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. This isn't just a poetic phrase for a motivational poster. It's a powerful truth that forms the foundation of the Buddhist path. Our thoughts are seeds. What we water grows. If we feed fear, anger, jealousy, and resentment, those qualities will take root and shape our actions, and in turn, our lives. But if we nurture kindness, gratitude, patience, and compassion, those qualities will blossom into the way we speak, the choices we make, and the energy we bring into the world. This is the essence of right thought, one of the core teachings in the Noble Eightfold Path. Right thought means we intentionally shift away from harmful thinking and begin to cultivate thoughts rooted in goodwill, generosity, and understanding. It's not about denying the negative. It's about choosing not to live there. Every moment offers us a chance to plant new seeds. With awareness, we can begin to shift our inner dialogue. We can start to notice when we're falling into patterns of criticism or hopelessness, and gently guide ourselves back to thoughts that uplift, support, and inspire. This isn't fake positivity. It's a disciplined practice, a courageous choice. When we think with love, we live with love. When we think with mindfulness, we move through life with balance. And when we train the mind toward peace, happiness becomes not something we chase, but something we naturally embody. Let's take this teaching to heart and explore how it unfolds in everyday life. Let me tell you a story. In a quiet mountain village in Nepal, nestled among whispering pines and prayer flags fluttering in the wind, lived a young monk named Tenzin. He had chosen the monastic path at a young age, drawn by the simplicity, the silence, and the promise of peace. But what he discovered, as days turned into years, was that peace wasn't so easy to find. Not when the real battle was within his own mind. No matter how long he sat in meditation, no matter how many sutras he memorized, the thoughts still came. Self-doubt, jealousy, fear. He compared himself to the other monks. Some seemed so serene, so wise. Why couldn't he quiet his own mind? Was he failing at this path? One evening, after yet another restless meditation, Tenzin went to his teacher, an old monk known for his gentle eyes and weathered hands. They sat together in silence, the stars slowly blinking to life above them. After a long pause, the teacher said softly, "Tenzin, do you see that lotus blooming in the mud down by the stream?" Tenzin looked and nodded. The lotus glowed pale pink in the moonlight, rising from thick, dark mud. "The mud is your suffering," the teacher continued. "The lotus is your mind. You don't eliminate the mud. You grow above it." In that moment, something shifted within Tenzin. He realized that the goal wasn't to erase every negative thought or emotion. It was to transform them, to rise through them, not run from them. The lotus doesn't wait for perfect conditions to bloom. It blossoms in the middle of the mess. This wisdom lies at the heart of Buddhist practice, especially the teaching of right thought, part of the Noble Eightfold Path. Right thought encourages us to let go of ill will, abandon craving and resentment, and instead nurture thoughts rooted in loving kindness, metta, compassion, and clarity. Positive thinking, from a Buddhist perspective, isn't about ignoring hardship or denying your struggles. It's about choosing thoughts that align with your deepest values, thoughts that are in harmony with the truth of impermanence, the power of compassion, and the wisdom of non-attachment. When we think with kindness, our words and actions follow. When we think with awareness, we create space between stimulus and response. We become less reactive, more intentional. And when we practice gratitude, we realize that happiness isn't somewhere out there in the future. It's right here, in the present, waiting to be noticed. Tenzin didn't become a perfect monk overnight. His thoughts still wandered. Doubts still surfaced. But now, instead of feeling defeated, he smiled. He had learned the secret of the lotus, to use every bit of mud as nourishment for his growth. And so can we. So how can we practice positive thinking? The Buddhist way. It begins with intention, deepens with awareness, and blossoms through practice. In Buddhism, positive thinking isn't about blind optimism or denying suffering. It's about seeing clearly and choosing thoughts that uplift rather than weigh us down. Here's how we begin. First, mindful awareness. Watching the garden of the mind. The first step is awareness. Our thoughts arise constantly, often uninvited, often unnoticed. But each thought carries energy. Some are rooted in fear, jealousy, anger, or greed. Others are rooted in compassion, understanding, and peace. Buddhist practice teaches us to become the observer, to notice our thoughts as they arise, without judgment. This is where mindfulness comes in. Like a gardener tending soil, we pause and examine what's growing in the mind. Are these thoughts helpful or harmful? Are they feeding peace or stirring restlessness? Instead of suppressing negative thoughts, we acknowledge them gently and choose not to feed them. Just as clouds pass through the sky without staining it, thoughts pass through the mind. We don't have to hold on to them. We can let them go. Over time, this kind of awareness rewires the brain. Neuroscience now echoes what the Buddha taught 2,500 years ago. What we repeatedly think, we strengthen. So let us strengthen thoughts of kindness, patience, and clarity. Second, loving kindness meditation. Metta rewiring the heart. Metta bhavana, or loving kindness meditation, is a cornerstone of Buddhist positive thinking. It's the intentional practice of sending goodwill, first to yourself, then to loved ones, strangers, and even difficult people. It begins simply. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be at peace. Then, may you be happy. May you be safe. May you be at peace. This practice softens the heart. It transforms inner criticism into self-compassion. It melts resentment. It reminds us that all beings, even those who hurt us, want the same thing: to be free from suffering. Loving kindness isn't about excusing harmful behavior. It's about liberating ourselves from the hatred and bitterness that keep us stuck. It's one of the most radical and healing forms of positive thinking. Not naive, but courageous. Third, gratitude practice. Training the eye for joy. Gratitude is a spiritual muscle, and it strengthens with use. Each evening, take a few minutes to reflect on 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be dramatic. A warm cup of tea, a kind word, a moment of silence. By naming them, you train your mind to see the good that is already here. The Buddha once said, "Let us rise up and be thankful, for if we didn't learn a lot today, at least we learned a little." Gratitude redirects the spotlight. Instead of focusing on what's missing, it illuminates what's already present. And as that lens shifts, so does our sense of happiness. Fourth, right intention. Moving from ego to wisdom. In the Noble Eightfold Path, right intention means aligning our thoughts with ethical and spiritual clarity. Before we speak or act, we pause and ask, what is my motivation? Is this coming from love or from fear? From wisdom or from ego? Right intention is like an internal compass. It guides us to act with integrity, compassion, and mindfulness. It doesn't mean we never feel anger or frustration. It means we don't let those feelings be in the driver's seat. Positive thinking becomes more than just individual well-being. It becomes part of how we show up in the world, with honesty, care, and purpose. Even the Buddha, the awakened one, did not escape suffering. He saw death, sickness, and aging. He left behind a life of luxury not to avoid suffering, but to understand it, and ultimately to transform it. That's the heart of Buddhist positive thinking. Transformation. Like turning poison into medicine. Like a lotus rising from the mud. We don't pretend the mud doesn't exist. We use it to grow something beautiful. Suffering is not the opposite of happiness. It is often its doorway. When we bring awareness to our pain, when we meet our anger with compassion, when we choose gratitude instead of complaint, we are practicing a deeper, wiser kind of positivity. It is not always easy, but it is always worth it. Each time we choose to think with clarity and compassion, we plant seeds of happiness. Not fleeting pleasure, but the happiness that comes from inner freedom, the kind that no one can take away. And with consistent practice, this kind of happiness is not just possible, it's guaranteed. Every negative emotion carries a message. Often, these feelings are not enemies to be battled, but teachers to be heard. In Buddhism, we're encouraged not to suppress or judge our emotions, but to become curious about them, to meet them with gentle awareness. Take anger, for example. It often arises when we feel disrespected, misunderstood, or powerless. It can be explosive, but underneath the heat, there's usually pain, a wound that hasn't healed. When we sit with our anger instead of reacting blindly, we may discover the vulnerable part of ourselves that simply wants to be seen, heard, or protected. Fear points to uncertainty, a lack of trust in the future, in others, or in ourselves. It shows up when we feel threatened, even if the threat is imagined. But when we greet fear with mindfulness, we realize it's often a projection, a story the mind is telling. The practice, then, is to respond with steadiness, not panic. To breathe. To come back to the present moment, where we're usually more safe and capable than we think. Envy reveals where we feel incomplete. When we compare ourselves to others, it can make us believe we're not enough, not successful enough, not attractive enough, not loved enough. But comparison is a thief of joy. The Buddhist path teaches us to turn envy into mudita, sympathetic joy, the ability to genuinely celebrate others' happiness. And in doing so, we begin to heal our own sense of lack. These emotions lose their grip when we meet them with compassion, not denial. Not self-criticism, but compassion. We say, this is suffering, and we hold it like we would hold a crying child, gently, patiently, without judgment. This is the essence of Buddhist emotional intelligence. And yet, there's another powerful way to rise above self-centered suffering: service. Helping others is one of the fastest ways to reconnect with meaning. When we extend kindness, even in small ways, a smile, a listening ear, an act of generosity, our perspective shifts. Suddenly, our personal problems shrink. They don't disappear, but they lose their overwhelming weight. In the act of serving, we become part of something greater than ourselves. This isn't just a nice idea, it's a deep truth. In Buddhism, we are all seen as interconnected. The suffering of one affects the whole. The joy of one uplifts many. When we serve others, we dissolve the illusion of separation. And in that unity, we find peace. The Dalai Lama expressed this beautifully. If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. This isn't just poetic, it's deeply practical. Compassion creates connection, and connection dissolves suffering. Think of a time when you helped someone, even in a small way. Remember how it felt. There's a quiet joy that comes from being useful, from knowing you made a difference. This joy isn't flashy or loud, but it's lasting. It's the kind of joy that can't be bought or earned, only given. When we regularly practice compassion toward others and ourselves, positive thinking becomes natural. We no longer need to force optimistic thoughts. They arise organically, like sunlight breaking through the clouds. Buddhist practice doesn't ask us to eliminate pain. It invites us to transform it, to use it as fuel for growth and compassion. Just like the lotus grows from the mud, we can grow from our challenges. So when you feel overwhelmed by your emotions, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to teach me? Can I meet it with kindness instead of resistance? And when you feel lost in your own struggles, reach out to someone else. Offer support, love, or simply presence. In doing so, you'll discover that helping to ease another's burden also lightens your own. The path of positive thinking in Buddhism isn't built on pretending everything's okay. It's built on radical acceptance, deep compassion, and the recognition that every thought, every feeling, every action is an opportunity to awaken, to come home to the heart. And in that heart, happiness is always waiting. If you take anything from this video, let it be this: you have the power to change your inner world. Not by pretending everything is perfect, not by covering pain with false smiles, but by meeting each moment, the joyful, the painful, and everything in between, with a heart that chooses peace. This is the heart of Buddhist positive thinking. It's not about suppressing what's real. It's about welcoming reality with wisdom, and then choosing how we relate to it. We can't always control what happens to us. Life is unpredictable. People will hurt us. Plans will fail. Change will come. But what we can control, and what the Buddha pointed to again and again, is how we respond. That response begins in the mind. Buddhism teaches that all that we are is the result of what we have thought. Our thoughts are not just passing clouds, they're the architects of our reality. What we consistently think, we eventually believe. What we believe, we feel. What we feel, we act on. And what we act on becomes our life. So positive thinking in Buddhism isn't a surface-level smile. It's a spiritual discipline. It's learning to pause, observe, and gently guide your mind toward clarity, compassion, and truth, creating space for joy. In Buddhist practice, we don't chase happiness. We create the conditions for it to arise. It's like tending a garden. You can't force a flower to bloom, but you can give it sunlight, water, and rich soil. Happiness is the flower. And the conditions are mindfulness, ethical living, compassion, patience, and letting go. When we sit in stillness, in meditation, in quiet reflection, or even just a few conscious breaths, we begin to notice the subtle patterns of our thoughts. We catch ourselves spiraling into fear or complaint. And in that moment of noticing, we gain freedom. We can choose to plant a different seed, one of gratitude, forgiveness, or acceptance. In this way, happiness becomes natural, not forced. It arises in the spaciousness of a calm mind and an open heart. Letting go to grow. One of the most transformative aspects of Buddhist positive thinking is the practice of letting go. We let go of what we cannot control. We let go of the past we cannot change. We let go of expectations, comparisons, grudges, and the illusion of perfection. Not because we're indifferent, but because we want to be free. Holding on is heavy. Letting go is light. Every time we release a thought that no longer serves us, whether it's resentment, fear, or self-doubt, we make space for something more peaceful to take root. And it's in this space that true happiness enters. Not the happiness of pleasure or escape, but the happiness of inner freedom. The kind of joy that doesn't depend on circumstances. The kind of peace that remains, even in the middle of difficulty. Happiness walks beside you. We often think of happiness as something far away, a destination we'll reach when everything lines up just right. When we have the job, the partner, the health, the money, the praise. But Buddhism flips this idea on its head. Happiness isn't a destination. It's a companion on the path. It's not something you get to once everything is perfect. It's something that walks beside you when your thoughts are rooted in mindfulness, love, and clarity. Even on hard days, joy can be present in small ways. A kind word. A warm cup of tea. The feeling of the sun on your skin. A moment of stillness between thoughts. When you stop chasing happiness, you start noticing it, often in the most ordinary moments. This is the power of mindful, compassionate thinking. It shifts your attention from what's wrong to what's real, from what's missing to what's already here. And over time, this practice changes your life from the inside out. You are already enough. Let this message sink in. You are already enough. There's nothing more you need to achieve to be worthy of peace. The goal is not to become someone else. It's to remember who you are underneath the noise. Beneath the judgments, the fears, the expectations. There is a presence within you that is calm, kind, and whole. Positive thinking in Buddhism isn't about becoming someone fake or always cheerful. It's about returning to your true nature, the part of you that is wise, aware, and compassionate by default. And when you live from that space, the world around you begins to shift too. Your relationships deepen. Your stress softens. Your purpose becomes clearer. You move through life with more grace and less resistance. So, as we close, remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the one watching them. You are not your pain. You are the one healing through it. And happiness is not something you earn. It's something you already carry. You just have to make space for it to bloom. If this message resonated with you, if it stirred something within your heart or offered a moment of clarity, I invite you to subscribe to Daily Buddhism Wisdom. On this channel, we explore timeless teachings and gentle practices that bring mindfulness, peace, and compassion into everyday life. From inspiring stories to guided meditations, from ancient wisdom to practical insights for modern living, our content is designed to support your journey, wherever you are on the path. The road to happiness doesn't require grand achievements or perfect circumstances. It begins with something small, yet powerful, a single thought. A thought rooted in kindness. A thought that says, I am enough. A thought that opens the door to peace. Every day is a chance to begin again. Every breath is a reminder to return to the present. And every moment offers a choice, to meet life with fear or with love. Choose love. Choose awareness. Choose peace. Subscribe to Daily Buddhism Wisdom, and let's walk this mindful path together. One breath, one step, one kind thought at a time. Your journey to lasting happiness is already unfolding. Let's nurture it, together.